Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to a roundup of some of the news stories from the world of Formula 1 over the last week. Kicking us off then, our Mercedes boss Toto Wolff has admitted that Esteban Ocon could be dropped from the team's young driver programme in a bid to open up more options for his F1 future. It is widely expected that once Lance Stroll takes a seat at Force India, the Frenchman will be the one to make way and could end up without a drive in 2019. With options running out and the likes of Zach Brown, Cyril Abiteboul and Christian Horner all saying that they decided against or won't sign Ocon because of those Mercedes ties, Wolff is now looking at all possible options to help the Frenchman find a seat. And discussing the young driver programme and the possibility of releasing Ocon, Toto Wolff stated, "Fundamentally, why we do this is we take great enjoyment in helping young talented drivers who lack finances. When we took Esteban from Gravity, we felt that he needed support. But if our support only works until Formula 1 but is then detrimental to these guys to get the right seats, you need to consider these things. And then think, what does it mean to be a Mercedes driver? At the moment, you are driving for another team. Esteban is not going to take any stick from me if he was driving for a McLaren or a Williams. The whole system needs to be scrutinised, in my opinion." And this morning it was reported that Christian Horner did not believe that Esteban Ocon was an option for Toro Rosso because the prospect of investing in another team's young drivers only to face the possibility of them being recalled by their parent team was not an attractive situation. Horner said, "Being on a recall mechanism isn't attractive to a vast majority of teams. The crazy situation is you've got a driver like Ocon who might end up without a seat next year. If he was contractually free, he'd be an obvious candidate for Toro Rosso. But Red Bull aren't going to invest in a Mercedes driver, understandably." With seats at McLaren and Renault filled and Toro Rosso now looking unlikely, unless he can secure a seat at Williams, Haas or Sauber, Esteban Ocon is facing the real prospect of being without a drive in F1 for 2019. Sticking with Toto Wolff, and the Mercedes boss says that he believes F1 should consider allowing teams to run 3 cars to try and help combat the lack of options available for young drivers to grab a seat in the sport. As covered in the previous story, Mercedes face the very real possibility that they could see another young driver fall off the grid next season, having already seen Pascal Wehrlein lose out at the end of last season. And with George Russell waiting in the wings for his chance, Wolff is frustrated with the lack of opportunities available for their drivers. And discussing a possible solution, he stated, "I have a simple solution. Give us a third car. Make it mandatory to put a young driver with maximum 2 years of experience in that car. The costs wouldn't be huge. The grid would be packed and we would have fantastic shows of new kids on the block coming up and fighting hard with the Valtteris and Lewises of this world and surprising us. Owning another team just to find a place for your young drivers doesn't make sense for us, and I think the big teams are not going to take risks with young drivers. Now, you can say that is boring. I think it is boring. I think we should take risks. We should put 18 or 19-year-old top talents in a top car and give them a chance. But the problem is that if you lose a Drivers' Championship or a Constructors' Championship because they are on a learning curve, that is obviously not great." So then, let's take these first couple of stories and use them as inspiration for this week's questions. And where do you think Esteban Ocon will end up in 2019? And do you think George Russell will be able to secure a race seat for next season? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sebastian Vettel believes that there is no reason for Ferrari to use team orders to help the German to a 5th world title. The question was raised after the German missed out on pole position to his teammate in Monza and was again put to Vettel after what turned out to be a very difficult race for the 4-time world champion. And many do believe that pole position on Saturday would have kept him out of any trouble on lap 1. And speaking earlier this week, Sebastian Vettel said that he was happy to fight with all the cars on the grid. "I'm doing my job and I'm prepared to race everybody. I was trying to use my chances in the first corner, a little bit in the second chicane, but it didn't work. Then it was a bit unfortunate with how things turned out. Everybody's free to have whatever approach they want, but for us, it's pretty clear and straightforward. Obviously, I can see the questions coming, but for me, it's pretty clear. I'm happy to fight 3 cars. I'm happy to actually fight 19 cars. I think I've never been in a different position to that. That's fine. I don't expect anything else." Following Hamilton's win on Sunday, Vettel fell 30 points behind his title rival and will obviously be desperate to bounce back in Singapore, a race he must surely win to keep this year's World Championship fight alive. Jean Todt does not expect any new manufacturers to join the grid in 2021 and believes that the priority should be keeping Mercedes, Ferrari, Renault and Honda in the sport. Of course, 2021 was expected to see a raft of changes to the current power unit formula, and it was believed that that would attract new manufacturers to the sport, with the likes of Aston Martin and Porsche being mentioned. However, following the FIA president's comments, that is now looking increasingly unlikely. Todd said, There was some demonstration of interest from one who said to us we are not in a situation to commit for 2021, but what is very important for us is to know exactly what will be the regulations because there could be a strong interest in the future. My priority is to make sure that we keep them four. I always said it would be very unfair to the four engaged to say, okay, we want to attract a new one, so let's change everything. But what about them? What about all the investment they have been doing for years and we say we change completely the regulations because we may have one or two coming? That is one of the reasons why it was not a revolution on the engine regulations. Now if we can secure those four, for me that would be a great achievement. I was always pessimistic to the fact that with specific rules for F1 we could have more than four manufacturers. So I was very sceptical. That is why I also asked to consider to have some common regulations in other championships because it would encourage other manufacturers, if you were able to have 7 to 10 customers, to be able to buy the powertrain, but that has not happened. The rules regarding the 2021 engines have not yet been finalised, but it is expected that they will be released in the near future, with Todd saying that they are close to a conclusion. And finally, Stoffel Vandoorne said that he feels he has been harshly judged by Formula 1 and that his critics are too quick to pass that judgment. Vandoorne has suffered a difficult season in a car that has, by Zak Brown's own admission, not been good enough and hasn't allowed Stoffel to show his true talent. And earlier this week, McLaren confirmed that the Belgian would be dropped for 2019, with young Brit Lando Norris stepping up and taking his place. And speaking to Autosport during the Italian Grand Prix weekend, Vandoorne believes that he has been judged too harshly, but still believes in his own ability. The Belgian said, "I know my talent, what I've done in the previous series, and I don't have any doubt on myself. I think it's maybe more people around that have any doubts, and you know how it goes sometimes. You have one bad weekend and suddenly you are the worst driver on the grid, and the next day you have a great race and you are the superstar." Vandoorne has been strongly linked to a seat at Sauber for next season, however the team have distanced themselves from that rumour. But Zak Brown said earlier this week that he thinks Toro Rosso should take the opportunity to snap up the Belgian, and many believe that with his previous experience with Honda, it could well be a realistic possibility. That is it for this week's news roundup then, and don't forget to let me know what you think about Esteban Ocon's future, and also where do you think Stoffel Vandoorne will be racing in 2019? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, unless Ferrari, or any team for that matter, decide to announce their 2019 driver lineups over the next day or so, the next time I will be back will be live this Sunday at 6 PM as always. And just to let you know as well, all being well, content on the channel will be back to some sort of normality next week. In the meantime though, you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.